They aired on small screens, but left gigantic imprints on our cultural psyche. These weren't just TV movies, they were atmospheric, chilling, and years ahead of their time. Forgotten by the mainstream but worshipped by niche fans, these 1960s TV films became cult legends. Let's dive into 15 unforgettable television movies that continue to haunt and inspire generations later. 1. Dark Intruder, 1965. Before Lovecraftian horror became a genre buzzword, there was Dark Intruder, a moody Gothic detective tale dripping in shadows and ancient evil. Starring a surprisingly serious Leslie Nielsen, the film follows Brett Kingsford, an occult expert assisting the police with a string of supernatural murders in 19th century San Francisco. The story blends demonic possession, arcane symbols, and a terrifying entity that stalks from the darkness. What makes this forgotten gem so special is that it was never meant to be a standalone movie. NBC originally commissioned it as a pilot for a potential TV series, but the network got cold feet about airing weekly occult tales and shelved the show, leaving behind this eerie one-off that's equal parts noir and horror. The atmosphere is thick with candlelight, foggy alleys, and creeping dread. Though just under an hour long, Dark Intruder packs a cinematic punch, foreshadowing later horror detective hybrids like Kolchak and even The X-Files. Today, it's rediscovered by fans who cherish its restrained style, serious tone, and clever blend of horror and detective fiction. It's not just a relic, it's a revelation. 2. Fear No Evil, 1969. In a time when TV horror was often tame, Fear No Evil dared to stare into the abyss and brought the occult into prime time. This eerie thriller follows psychologist Dr. David Sorrell, Louis Jourdan, whose patient dies mysteriously after claiming to be haunted by dreams of a terrifying mirror. But when Sorrell begins to investigate, he uncovers an entire world of possession, rituals, and ancient evil hiding behind respectable faces. What elevates Fear No Evil from pulpy horror to cult legend is its stylish commitment to psychological dread. Instead of overt gore, the film leans into dream logic, uncanny imagery, and subtle paranoia. Its use of mirrors and distorted identities echoes European horror more than American thrillers, and Jourdan's restrained, haunted performance adds a layer of tragic intelligence to the story. Though originally meant to launch a series of Dr. Sorrell mysteries, the show was never picked up, making this eerie standalone feel like a glimpse into an unrealized universe. Horror fans eventually rediscovered it, especially as VHS and bootlegs circulated among collectors. Now it's regarded as one of the earliest, most sophisticated attempts to put adult horror on American television. 3. The Night Slaves, 1969. Imagine waking up in a town where everyone you know is behaving like a robot, only at night. That's the unsettling premise behind Night Slaves, a 1969 sci-fi mystery that plays like an American invasion of the body snatchers with a television budget. Starring James Franciscus and Lee Grant, the story begins innocently. A couple arrives in a quiet town for a vacation. But soon, the husband notices something's very wrong. Every night, the townspeople vanish, only to reappear at dawn with no memory of their actions. Is it hypnosis, alien control, government experiment? The film keeps its cards close to the chest, drawing the viewer into a surreal psychological trap. What makes Night Slaves unforgettable isn't just the chilling concept, but the calm, eerie execution. It taps into Cold War paranoia and identity crisis in ways that still resonate with modern audiences. Though low budget and overlooked at the time, the film became a staple of late-night reruns, where insomniacs and sci-fi fans discovered its strange brilliance. It never got the attention of its big-screen counterparts, but that's exactly what gives it cult power. It's a secret you pass along in whispers. 4. How Awful About Alan, 1969. Anthony Perkins delivers one of his most haunting post-psycho performances in How Awful About Alan, a chilling psychological drama that blurs the line between paranoia and reality. Perkins plays Alan, a man left psychologically broken and nearly blind after a traumatic house fire that killed his father. Returning home from a mental institution, Alan begins to hear voices and sense a presence lurking in the house. But is he truly haunted, or is it all in his head? The film plays like a gothic fever dream. Shadows flicker, whispers echo, and the tension slowly coils tighter. Julie Harris co-stars as Alan's sister, whose cool demeanor hides layers of resentment and trauma. Their toxic dynamic becomes the beating heart of the movie, and Perkins, nervous, vulnerable, and increasingly unhinged, reminds us why he was a master of psychological horror. Though originally aired as an ABC Movie of the Week, the film's intimate terror and slow unraveling made it linger in the minds of viewers long after. Over time, it became a cult favorite among fans of vintage psychological thrillers. If you're looking for early TV horror that relies more on dread than spectacle, this is it. 5. The Ballad of Andy Crocker, 1969. Before Coming Home or Born on the 4th of July, there was The Ballad of Andy Crocker, one of the first American films to confront the emotional wreckage of Vietnam veterans returning home. Starring Lee Majors as Andy, the film tells the devastating story of a young man who returns from war expecting to pick up where he left off. But nothing is the same. His girlfriend has moved on, his business is gone, and society has no use for him anymore. What makes Andy Crocker so powerful is its rawness. There's no sentimental safety net, no triumphant ending. The film doesn't glorify war or redemption. It just shows the quiet, crushing alienation of a man discarded by the country he served. It feels eerily modern, even prophetic. Though made for TV, it was heavily promoted and treated like a prestige project. Yet it faded into obscurity, only to be rediscovered years later as one of the most honest Vietnam-era stories. For cult film fans, it's essential viewing, a grim mirror held up to a nation on the edge of unraveling. 6. Night Slaves, 1969. While many sci-fi thrillers of the 1960s leaned on flashy effects and alien gimmicks, Night Slaves took a more haunting route, one where identity, free will, and conformity were the real horrors. This slow-burning thriller creeps into your psyche with its unsettling simplicity. James Franciscus plays Clay Howard, a man recovering from a car accident that left him emotionally numb. He and his wife visit a rural town to relax. But Clay notices something odd. Every night, the townspeople disappear, only to return each morning with no recollection of where they went. Even his wife becomes one of them. Clay, immune to the strange phenomenon due to a metal plate in his head, is the only one aware and terrified. The suspense in Night Slaves builds like fog creeping across empty streets. With dreamlike pacing and ominous silences, the film trades spectacle for dread. The mystery of who's behind the town's behavior, is it aliens? Government mind control? Keeps viewers guessing until the unnerving climax. Though largely ignored upon its initial broadcast, Night Slaves was rediscovered by insomniac viewers and late-night horror collectors who passed around grainy recordings and sang its praises in fan circles. Its minimalist terror and high-concept ideas place it firmly in the cult TV Hall of Fame. 7. Daughter of the Mind, 1969. Daughter of the Mind begins with a seance and ends in political paranoia. This gripping blend of ghost story and Cold War thriller stars Don Murray as a grieving scientist who believes his dead daughter is contacting him from beyond the grave. But when the military gets involved, the truth becomes far more disturbing than anything supernatural. What starts as a tale of loss and longing morphs into a psychological conspiracy thriller. Murray's character, Dr. Samuel Constable, begins seeing and hearing his daughter, Mary, everywhere. She appears in mirrors. Her voice calls to him in the dark. But investigators suspect something more sinister. Could foreign powers be manipulating the doctor's mind to gain access to government secrets? The film combines deep emotional resonance with cerebral tension. Ray Milland adds gravitas as the psychic investigator trying to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, the line between genuine grief and orchestrated manipulation grows thinner with each scene. Daughter of the Mind was a ratings success during its original airing and remains one of the most sophisticated examples of 1960s television horror. Today, it's prized by fans of psychological suspense and ghost stories that do more than just rattle chains. 8. Ritual of Evil, 1969. If Fear No Evil cracked the door open on occult horror for network television, then Ritual of Evil kicked it wide. This sequel of sorts once again stars Louis Jourdan as psychiatrist David Sorrell, who investigates a bizarre death at the request of a wealthy woman worried her niece is involved with a satanic cult. From the very first scene, the tone is rich with unease. Pagan symbols carved into trees, drug-laced wine, ritualistic candles, and whispers of devil worship behind locked doors. Ritual of Evil pushes the boundaries of what TV horror could show at the time without ever losing its psychological edge. Jourdan's Sorrell remains calm, analytical, but clearly disturbed by the darkness he uncovers. Unlike many horror protagonists, he doesn't fight with fists or crucifixes, but with reason and empathy. This intellectual approach only deepens the mystery, creating tension from things unseen rather than overt jump scares. Though never developed into a series, both Fear No Evil and Ritual of Evil were passed around by horror fans for decades as examples of how TV could do mature, atmospheric horror. Today, Ritual of Evil is appreciated for its brooding tone, moody visuals, and restrained dread that lingers long after the screen goes dark. 9. Dead of Night, 1969. Anthology. Horror reached a quiet peak in 1969 with Dead of Night, a British-produced collection of eerie tales that never quite got its due in America, until cult audiences rediscovered it. Though sharing a name with the classic 1945 British horror film, this version stands on its own with 3 chilling segments that each deliver something uniquely disturbing. One standout tale involves a woman haunted by premonitions of a car crash that keeps replaying in her dreams, only to reveal a twist that chills to the bone. Another follows a scientist whose invention begins to warp the fabric of time, unraveling his sanity. A third explores a man cursed by a child's imaginary friend that might be more real than anyone suspects. What binds these stories together is mood. There's no flashy gore or melodrama, just tightly wound suspense, creeping paranoia, and moments of surreal terror. The color palette is muted, the performances are restrained, and yet the fear is palpable. Dead of Night didn't get widespread U.S. syndication, but over time, collectors and horror forums hailed it as a hidden gem. Its format inspired later anthology shows like Night Gallery and Tales from the Dark Side. For horror purists and slow-burn thriller fans, it remains a holy grail. 10th Journey to the Unknown, 1968-69. It began as a TV series, but several episodes of Journey to the Unknown were so cinematic in quality that they were repackaged as standalone TV movies, and that's how they earned their cult legacy. Produced by Britain's Hammer Films and aired on ABC, the anthology series brought gothic horror and psychological thrillers into American homes with an eerie British twist. The stories vary wildly, but all carry a sense of creeping dread. In one, a woman finds herself in a town where everyone insists she's someone else. In another, a lonely man falls in love with a mannequin that may or may not be alive. There are tales of haunted children, secret societies, and even episodes that feel like proto-Black Mirror with their sci-fi edge. Hammer Films' signature touch, gothic lighting, mysterious estates, morally gray characters, elevates every story. The acting is high caliber, the script's unusually sharp for television, and the direction leans heavily into atmosphere. Though largely forgotten after its brief run, the series' repackaged movie versions circulated in bootlegs and late-night TV for years. Now, horror fans seek out Journey to the Unknown for its stylish creepiness and unique place as a bridge between classic horror and modern psychological storytelling. 11. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1968. It's a tale we all know, but in 1968, Jack Palance gave it teeth. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, produced for television by Dan Curtis, reimagined Robert Louis Stevenson's gothic horror with startling brutality and emotion, driven almost entirely by Palance's ferocious dual performance. This wasn't your grandfather's Victorian parable. Curtis's version leaned into psychological horror and sensual decadence. As Jekyll, Palance is stiff and moralistic, repressing his rage and longing. But when Hyde emerges, he explodes, snarling, clawing, eyes wide with madness. The transformation scenes, even with basic FX, are gripping because of Palance's sheer physicality. He doesn't just change looks, he changes soul. What made this TV adaptation legendary among horror fans was its unflinching portrayal of inner torment. Jekyll isn't just battling a double life, he's being consumed by a part of himself he both fears and secretly needs. Though some critics dismissed it as theatrical, Palance's performance developed a cult reputation, inspiring praise from later genre filmmakers. It aired just once in prime time, but bootlegs circulated for years. Fans still debate whether this version boasts the best Hyde in TV history. In a sea of diluted adaptations, this one had blood in its teeth. 12. Paperman, 1969. Before the internet, before digital ID theft, there was Paperman, a surprisingly prescient TV techno-thriller that explored the terrifying consequences of a fictional identity becoming real. Starring Dean Stockwell and Stephanie Powers, the story follows a group of college students who create a fake persona in a university computer system to scam credit cards. But then that fake person begins to live. It's subtle at first: mysterious calls, bank withdrawals, security alerts. Then the murders begin, and the question looms: who or what is Paperman? The film blends early computer age anxiety with psychological horror wrapped in the shadow of Cold War surveillance culture. Long before war games or the net, Paperman warned viewers about what happens when machines become gatekeepers of truth and how easy it is to lose control of technology. Though the movie's computer scenes feel quaint by today's standards, its core themes are more relevant than ever. In an age of deep fakes and digital footprints, Paperman feels like a prophecy wrapped in a thriller. Cult fans of vintage sci-fi thrillers now cherish it as one of TV's first techno-horror landmarks. 13. The People, 1969. From the very start, The People feels off. It's a quiet film about a young schoolteacher named Melody, played by Kim Darby, who arrives in a small, isolated town to teach local children. The townspeople are kind, but distant. The children are brilliant, but emotionless. And there are whispers that no one ever leaves this place. What Melody eventually learns is chilling. The residents aren't from Earth at all. They are survivors from another planet, trying to live peacefully and unnoticed on Earth, until her presence threatens to unravel their fragile illusion of normalcy. Based on Zena Henderson's People short stories, the film is less about sci-fi spectacle and more about the melancholy burden of being other. The townsfolk aren't monsters. They're trying to blend in to cope with loss and alienation. But that sadness gives the film its strange magic. Shot with a gentle tone and soft visuals, The People feels like a dream you can't shake. It was quietly aired on television and barely discussed, but over the years, it gained passionate fans who related to its themes of hidden identity, loneliness, and assimilation. For those who feel like outsiders, The People became a cult mirror of their own hidden struggles. 14. Shadow on the Land, 1968. What if fascism came to America and nobody noticed until it was too late? Shadow on the Land, also known as United States, It Can't Happen Here, took that chilling question and turned it into one of the boldest TV movies of the 1960s. Based on Sinclair Lewis's 1935 novel, the story unfolds in an alternate United States where a totalitarian regime has risen under the guise of patriotism and law and order. The plot centers on a resistance group trying to bring down this dictatorship from the inside. Surveillance is everywhere. Dissent is punished. Citizens are encouraged to report each other. And all of it is done in the name of safety. Broadcast during the height of the Vietnam War and civil unrest, the film struck a nerve, then vanished. Whether because of political pressure or poor ratings, Shadow on the Land was never re-aired. But underground copies circulated for years, gaining reverence among political activists, libertarians, and dystopian fiction fans. Watching it today feels disturbingly relevant. It's not flashy, but its restrained storytelling and chilling vision of a smiling tyranny make it unforgettable. For those who fear the slow creep of authoritarianism, Shadow on the Land is essential and terrifying viewing. 15. The Smugglers, 1968. This moody British mystery may not have rocked American airwaves in its time, but The Smugglers quietly became a cult classic thanks to its shadow-drenched visuals and noir-inspired tension. Set in a coastal village riddled with secrets, the story follows a detective investigating a missing person, only to uncover a dangerous ring of black market smugglers operating beneath the surface. What separates The Smugglers from typical crime dramas is its almost gothic atmosphere. The town is foggy, windswept, and full of creaky boats and locked doors. Every character seems to harbor a secret, and every alley leads somewhere darker. Though originally a British teleplay repackaged for U.S. television, it found a second life in America's late-night syndication circuit, especially among mystery lovers. The film's slow-burn storytelling, stark lighting, and brooding performances drew comparisons to classic Hammer thrillers. Over the years, fans of vintage British crime stories embraced The Smugglers not for its action, but for its tone. It's less about who did it and more about the world that lets it happen. A forgotten piece of fog-laced noir that now stands as a quiet legend in cult circles. These TV movies may have been made for small screens, but their legacies loom large. Through whispered praise, late-night reruns, and rediscovery by collectors, they became more than films. They became cult legends. Like, comment, and subscribe for more cinematic deep dives. You'll never watch TV history the same way again.